Was that Coruscant at first?
Boom. Oh, good eye. Hey, what's up, man?
Coruscant into an Imperial cruiser. I love that.
Here we go. Yeah, it's the Executor. I like somebody that recognizes these ships. And what is that? A Persian or Ragnar? What do you got there?
This is a Siamese. His name is Momo. You ever
buddy.
watch Avatar: The Last Airbender?
No.
See, that's a show you might have even had a voice on. I wouldn't even know it.
It's brutal. Yeah, that's one of the shows. There's a couple of shows that I just missed when they first happened and haven't been able to. It's a deep dive. Especially something like Avatar. That's a commitment.
Exactly. Trust me, I know the feeling. You know what? Let's just go straight into it. I'm joined right now by Seth Green. Seth, so nice to meet you. And I mean, we're here to talk about a show that I love, Robot Chicken.
Halloween special. Couldn't be more excited about it. Every once in a while, we get to do a long form thing, like a narrative version of an episode. Sometimes without channel breaks. And in this case, it's just a story. The nerd is on a Halloween adventure.
I love that. And see, that almost answers my next question too, because I was going to ask if it was a Halloween theme episode or a Halloween theme episode, an episode around the movie Halloween.
No, it's the former, where, God, how much of a spoiler do I want to give? Let's say that we dutifully satire a particular trope in movie making over the last 30 years, all in service of letting the nerd have a fantastic Halloween adventure.
I love that, and especially knowing that we're not going to get too many spoilers here, because I'm just sure if you saw Eternals got spoiled big time by a lot of people, which is kind of a bummer. So
I haven't heard that. I stayed off the internet. The internet's kind of poisonous. Well, most of the social media is a little bit poisonous.
100% correct.
Actually, I heard a great analogy. I was listening to Jon Stewart on Smartless podcast, and they're all very funny. And John said, it just made the point that there was a time when I used to absorb news and information, it was in either a self-regulated or at least a relatively controlled way. And for at least the last 10 or 15 years, humans in general have been bombarded with a literal fire hose of information, fact, fiction, just information, emotional, traumatic, like what everybody's going through. You're just like speedballing information at yourself at a rate that we're not biologically prepared for or even capable of processing. So he likened picking up social media or choosing to read Twitter or anything like that with willingly going in front of a fire hose and sort of a roulette wheel of potential emotional traumatic outcomes from just that peek at it. Mm-hmm. That made a lot of sense. So not in service to that, but kind of in addition to that, I don't know, man, I pick my battles, right? I choose the moments when I'm going to post. I choose the moments when I'm going to engage. And I find that's a little more healthy for me than before, where I felt almost obligated to consume as much as I could and obligated to put out something meaningful and use my voice in a powerful way. But it's like I don't know. I find my best benefit when I'm creating and when I'm entertaining. And so not like, I keep my opinions to myself, but also I don't make that a priority.
No, trust me, I understand. And plus, on like Twitter, Instagram.
Thanks for letting me go off on that. I'm sure that was the question in there, right?
You're speaking what's on a lot of people's minds. Trust me, because like you could literally just tweet like, water is really important, and you would have like a million people replying to me like, "What the fuck is that supposed to mean?"
The climate's important too, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have people yelling at you.
More important than air
about anything. Yeah. So, but anyway, back to Robot Chicken. You're obviously so part of so many big franchises, and I'm curious how great it is to know that something like that you made has been this well liked and has run for this long. Because like at this point, it's Adult Swim's longest running show. I mean, people love Robot Chicken, and it's going on forever, and it's like your baby in a sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Senreich and Tom Root, Doug Goldstein, Mike Fasolo, like we were the knuckleheads that were like, maybe this is a thing, and I don't know, we weren't. I mean, I've said this so many times. We weren't trying to make a show. It just sort of happened accidentally. We wanted to make a short. And then the internet evolved and Sony wanted to spend a little bit of money to test that experiment. That whole thing failed, but we had a bit of content. And I Matt and I spent 4 years shopping that around, everybody from Comedy Central to Saturday Night Live. And eventually the Adult Swim became a thing that was financing new linear content. And they took a shot on our show, and we've just lasted this long, which is absurd. It's really absurd.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that too, because I actually yesterday had interviewed Chris Kattan, and we were talking about some sketches that were canceled at SNL, and one being I don't know if you'd ever seen it, the Old Prospector skit with Will Ferrell and a couple other people. It's like all these unaired skits that SNL did because they didn't want to take a risk on like more fringy comedy or things that are outside the box, and like not even just
stuff that got shot, stuff that like aired in the live broadcast.
Yeah, it aired, and like they didn't end up airing it at all. Like there was a skit, they filmed it, they did everything with it, and then they didn't end up putting it in the show. And like that with them, what are you putting on my face, dude? God, I'm sorry. He's only like a month old. He's really frustrating. But
my cat is sleeping behind me on Lego Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was on the deck of the Executor over there. He's like in the command bridge. Gotcha.
Yeah. He's in charge of the ion cannon, but I don't know. He's always asleep. And quite frankly, I think he's on catnip.
I love that. But yeah, no, I mean, it's awesome that you were able to get it like a chance taken on a show that, like, again, traditional networks maybe wouldn't have taken a shot on it. I'm glad that like Adult Swim did it.
We had sort of a deal at Comedy Central in early 2001. And then September 11th happened, and comedy was like, "Hey, we're just not spending money. Just not spending money on this right now."
I think that's probably fair.
That seemed appropriate.
And something I've always liked about Robot Chicken, among many things, you guys have had a ton of guest appearances over the years, like a ton of great minds, comedy, dramatic, everything else. And a lot of them, I would assume, weren't overly familiar with voice work. You're obviously, like, I feel like a voice work legend at this point, in a sense.
Oh, sweet.
And how hard is it doing comedy in a booth versus doing it on a set, especially adapting like people who aren't used to it?
I love actors. I love performers, and I love when a space is created for performers to really do their thing without any fear or shame or concern. And so I, as a director, really love to create that space. And most actors can do it wherever. Like, if you really know your thing, you can do it on the street, in a closet, and it'll still work just as well. That's kind of the gift that lets you get put on film, right? Is that you can do it the same or do it expertly under any conditions, in the smallest of places, under the weirdest of circumstances. And so most actors that are really good actors, the booth is no difficulty for them. You just give them the context. Hey, look, you're either projecting more, or it's quieter, or, don't bump the mic with your hand, don't rustle your papers. And then it's all about like, hey, we'll make this moment. We're going to make this moment. Right. And so the fun thing about something like Robot is most of the stuff we need from an actor is 10 minutes total. It's so little work for them that it's just maybe a 15-minute total session, depending on what they have to record. And now that we've gotten so great with all the Zoom stuff, we don't even necessarily need to bring people into our studio to record. We can record them over these kind of systems if they've got a sensitive enough microphone and like a dampening. Mm-hmm. It's nuts. But we were into the Renegade Gets like as early as I can remember, because as soon as we closed the gap on what was broadcastable, it's like, I can achieve these conditions anywhere. So at one point we got Hugh Hefner and all of his girlfriends to agree to be on a show, and we had them as like Playmobil characters, I think. Lego, maybe. That's a very, very silly episode. And they were like, well, they'll do it, but they're not going to go anywhere. And I was like, oh, no worries. We'll just bring the mic to the mansion. No worries. 10 minutes, I promise. We got together in the library. The microphone. Hef was like, girls, come inside. And I was like, that's great. That's great. Hef, I only need 2 takes. Thank you. It's so silly. But that's the fun about it. And I think you feel that as the audience, that the whole process, while it's very professional and, strictly budgeted and managed incredibly responsibly, that it's still a little silly and it's still a little handmade, and that we're very punk rock. And if you see a thumbprint on some character's face in the close-up, that's just what fucking happened.
I love that. Do you ever have to like explain essentially a joke to maybe an actor or an actress that doesn't necessarily like they don't grasp the full concept? Because I'd always what do you call it, example that comes to mind, and I'm not sure if you've heard the story before, but I think it was on Batman and Robin where Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones, like they had like a sort of like a falling out because Jim Carrey kept trying to make jokes to Tommy Lee Jones, and Tommy Lee Jones just like hated him, and he was like, I think he said the phrase, "I cannot sanction your buffoonery," or something like that to Jim Carrey. And it's like there's certain actors where I'm just like, I don't know if they could totally grasp the joke, but you have to get them into the zone or like totally walk them through it more or less.
And also some of those older actors, it's like an evolutionary distance that's unrelated to the original, right? So everything that Tommy Lee Jones has known for his entire life about what it is to be an actor, what it is to be a movie star, what it is to be a man, a father, a friend, like all of those things. It like smacked right up against some innovation that Jim had with like how to create a comedic moment on film. And they just wouldn't, you gotta be game for whatever it is. And neither one of them are right or wrong, but man, that's funny. I have definitely had, I never have an actor we've never had somebody come on who didn't get there on purpose, and would have read all of the material or at least agreed to sign on in principle. And then everything's flexible when you get there. Like when we've got somebody there, everything's about making them comfortable, making them, putting them in the best place to like, give us the thing they want. We got Burt Ward to come in with Adam West. And both of them played like Adam did the Adam West Batman. It was in was it the third? I think it was the third DC special. We'd become fixated on Composite Superman, who's also sometimes called Composite Batman. Do you know about this character?
I'm vaguely, but yeah, please go remind our audience.
This is the dumbest real character in the history of DC. And there's some pretty dumb real characters in both of those universes. So Composite Superman is an alien that came to Earth and was like, I'm going to conquer Earth by taking the visage of Earth's mightiest heroes.
Okay.
But he couldn't pick between Superman, a godlike alien, or Batman, a rich guy who's great at inventing and wearing tech. So he made a half Superman, half Batman. And they have the costume, but the face is green. And I said over and over again, like, the Batman side is just a dude.
Mm-hmm.
The Superman side is an alien god, but the Batman side, it's just a fucking dude. And we wrote an entire special around that idea that guy tried to wield the universe. And we got Jonathan Banks to play Composite Superman, which did take a little bit of negotiating. Like, hey, John, it's this and this. Just give it like a full, but he doesn't care about the backstory or why. He just needs to know how to make that moment real.
I love that. I can't even imagine trying to walk through not even just an older actor, but any actor really that is maybe used to the fringier humor or anything like that, and through this sort of thing. But you guys are phenomenal at it. Everything in Robot Chicken, I feel like every guest appearance you guys have really stands out a ton. And I've always loved it.
Some people are down, and it's the most validating thing. This is the dumb admit, but maybe you'll appreciate this. So I love wrestling, old school wrestling.
Oh, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Right on. So my guy was Roddy Piper forever and ever. Just love Roddy. And especially as he started making movies, They Live.
Oh, I got They Live right around here somewhere. I have a poster. I think right back there in my room.
You'll appreciate this. I wanted to get Piper so bad. We did a sketch. It must have been second season called Hogan's Heroes. And it was, have you seen it?
Oh, Hogan's Heroes. Oh yeah. Colonel. No. Who's the guy that I know nothing? Who is that guy? The German guard. Schultz. Yeah.
So I watched that. It's a crazy, stupid show. But we made a Hogan's Heroes that was all WWE or WWF wrestlers, right? So it's Hulk Hogan, it's Piper, it's Savage. And we got Hogan to agree to do it. And then I was like, let's see if we can get Piper. And he agreed. He flew in from Vegas that night, over an hour late, getting to the record, shows up furious, like really in a bad mood. The flight was rough. He didn't mean the delay. It wasn't my fucking fault, guys. And I was like, yo, man, everything's cool. We're chill. We got another hour. You want to drink? What do you want to do? You want to hang out. We got him real calm. I got him in the booth and he's like reading the material and he's like, so this guy's like the fucking this guy? And I go, yeah. And he reads, he goes, you're a bunch of weirdos just like me, huh? And I can't even tell you what it did to me. It was like, yeah, Ronnie, we're a bunch of weirdos just like you.
Mm-hmm. Happened to my
really
heart
nice.
Melted.
Yeah. So we've had a couple of those moments, people that we've gotten to work with. It's, I don't know. It's a trip to think about.
First of all, I want to mention, I love that you have, again, the background that you have, because I'd love to talk to you about Star Wars a little bit. I got to ask you the question every person, I'm sure, asks you in every interview. Just, is there anything you could tell us about Star Wars Detours ever being aired somewhere? Please.
Not about it being aired. And it's an interesting lesson in producing content, which is something that anybody that's ever produced content learns, which is that there's a definite reality to things being made and never being exhibited. Some of this, I think, is more about the way in which it could be distributed and the fact that Lucasfilm has a clear mandate of the content they're going to release under the banner, and that this, because it predates any of that evolution or decision making or the Disney acquisition or the Disney Plus being a platform, it isn't the content they want to put out under that banner.
Gotcha.
We set out to make a Simpsons in the Star Wars universe. That's exactly what we did. And it's broken up into those pieces, some of which leaked, and nobody likes that, honestly, because for real, the legalities of content and IP protection at Lucasfilm, it's so serious. Like, I've been made aware of how big and insistent that apparatus is. So the fact that something leaked, like, nobody likes that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's so few people that have access to any of that material in perpetuity, let alone at the time. The fact that anything got out from any point, nobody likes that. Yeah. But, we made something we really dug, and we still dig, and put a lot of effort in, but it also isn't, it's something that was derived at that moment, a moment when there wasn't a plan to make new movies, a moment when there wasn't a plan to introduce this content to a different generation, with ongoing narrative storytelling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Disney Plus wasn't even on the horizon yet at all. So yeah, I could see even just beyond, obviously the sequel trilogy, but because this was like 2011, 12, right? That I think you guys had made it, if I'm correct.
No, we had to start it in like 9 or 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause then we had that showcase at the Celebration.
Yes. That's, oh yeah.
I think it was C5.
Oh yeah, the Anaheim this year. I'll be there. You going to Star Wars Celebration this year? I was in the last one. I went to Chicago before pre-COVID.
I'm not big on big crowds. Gotcha. Anyway, and definitely pandemic times. I'm just looking at how blissed out that kitty is, and it is so sweet.
Oh, dude, he's out like a light. But beyond being able to create your own Star Wars content, you're also part of it. I mean, you got Toto 316 Clone Wars, one of my favorite series ever. And I cannot wait to see. I mean, I've been saying this forever. I can't wait to see Cad Bane live action at some point, because I feel like the Mandalorian cries for Cad Bane and no one answers. I'm just like, that's the one character I really want to see him fighting alongside, Fennec Shand, along all these guys. It'd be incredible.
Yeah, but he'd be, timeline wise, Cad Bane's not alive in Mando times, is he?
I don't know how that species, which I forget the species name, but I don't know how long they live, or if he even died in canon anyway. So
it's an interesting question. You're more likely to see Cad Bane in anything that like touches prequel stuff, like Obi-Wan or Ahsoka. Actually, Ahsoka's probably later too, right?
Yeah, but Obi-Wan, though, that's a good point. If you got to see him in Obi-Wan and oh man, that would be incredible.
It would be.
You also got to voice George Lucas's son, technically speaking.
Isn't that fun?
You got to voice Papa Noida, which is obviously one of George Lucas's cameos. You ever? I think that you should, and I feel like you've met George Lucas enough times where you can be like, hey, maybe you should like work me into the inheritance. I don't want any money. Just give me the ranch. Just throw me the ranch.
Buddy. It's such a privilege to not just get to spend time with him, but he's so generous with all of those spaces. I would never be greedy with any of those asks. I feel so privileged just to have gotten even what I've gotten, and to maintain any kind of interaction with him. Like he's like a real normal person. No matter what you would project onto someone who is as innovative and creative as him, he's quite a normal person.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you could at least find those Star Wars movies he said he made for himself or whatever that was. I think he said he made a bunch for himself. He's like, no, they're just for me. Sorry, no one else is touching them.
Yeah, he's talked about making stuff. I told him I have definitely hit him up about making stuff in his retirement. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to make anything for anybody else, but if you're picking up a camera, let me be there.
I don't blame you at all. Another big thing you got to be part of, obviously, is Marvel. Can you explain? Because I feel like a lot of at least our listeners, they understand the concept of Howard the Duck. They don't understand the allure of Howard the Duck. Yeah. So can you explain for the layman why they should be obsessed, rightfully so, with Howard the Duck?
I mean, my attraction to Howard is that he's just the weirdo. And it's probably a consistent narrative for me in my career that I tend to relate to a version of the outsider or the misfit, a character that has a found family or, some kind of collection of other misfits to make up your own squad. And Howard is just a huge representative of that, especially because of the way he was originally introduced in pop as one of the weirdest, most adult, potentially dirtiest, at least raunchiest offshoots of I don't know. You gotta just like get about that time though. The way animation came out, the way like Ralph Bakshi hit the scene. It's like there was Art Crumb. There was a style to it in the 70s that led into the 80s in the invention of a character like Howard. So by the time the movie came out, Marvel, all this pop that feels so permanent, it wasn't mass saturated like that, right? So Howard was a big swing because it should have been the next big thing, but it also wasn't, it's not versatile enough to be the lead in its own movie that's trying to be 4-quadrant. Right? Like if anyone made a Howard movie today, it would be more like the Deadpool movie, like a very strange, probably hard that really captures this character consistently caught in a world he didn't make.
I like that. I think you broke it down well, because I do think that a lot of people that saw Howard the Duck in Guardians, or even saw like anything else involving Howard the Duck, like at least from our audience, which are like laymen to the Marvel universe, like they just consume the films. That's basically it. They're like, why is everyone going crazy about this fucking duck? Like, why does everyone like this duck so much?
Well, because just even the promise, the hint that you might see more from him is really, I think, desirable. You're like, I want to see what that asshole gets up to.
I completely agree. There's one last thing I want to ask you. Again, Robot Chicken Halloween special coming out this Halloween, believe it or not. And I'm sure you get asked this in every interview you ever do, because it's obviously your biggest thing that you've ever done. And it's Mass Effect, one of my favorite games of all time.
Right on.
I love to talk to you about Mass Effect because I love those series. I have all the trilogy sitting right over there. Anyway, the original trilogy.
Did you play the new?
I haven't tried the new one yet. The original trilogy for me was a big thing. I loved that growing up. Played it all the time. I think it's
just remastered or like equipped for the new interface.
Yeah, there's the Andromeda version. I haven't done the Andromeda, which I believe is new. And I was just like, I'm going to stick with my original trilogy. Sure. Believe it or not, that's been ingrained into my head to just love original trilogies of things. What do you call it? But I loved the character of Joker. You gave all of us nerds the hope that we might one day find a perfect robot lady to love, among other things. But I think right now is a great time to talk to you about this, because there are so many video game adaptations to media coming out soon. The Uncharted just had its trailer yesterday. There was the Last of Us series that's coming soon to HBO. It's going to be so cool. I can't wait for that. I'm just curious how you feel. Just, is there ever going to be like a great
wait, you'll love this. I have to. Oh, I missed it. So it's okay. Never mind. I thought I was going to cameo a friend of mine on this podcast, but instead I'll just text him. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm so sorry.
No problem at all. Only thing I was going to ask was if there was a so-called, let's say, like, there's going to be a great video game property, because there's a lot of good video game movies, a lot of good things based on video games, but I feel like there's never been that excellent quality show. Or is it just too hard to compress like hours and hours of gameplay and story into another medium?
It just depends on how they want to crack it, quite frankly. Like, I don't know what the intent is from the creators in expanding Mass Effect into something bigger. If it'll follow any narrative storyline that relates to a game anybody's played or not. I love the resurgence of the event series, and the acceptance of the audience of huge, longer, limited series that have multiple chapters, right? So I think that's a great space to cover a lot of these things, because you have a budget that's comparable to cinema, and you have an audience that's poised to watch a big story that unfolds over a long period of time. And you get the runway to start it small so it builds to what it becomes. I love it. I love thinking about something as big as Mass Effect in that kind of world. But luckily, I'm not tasked with creating the live action media of it.
I think hopefully with The Last of Us, that's going to be like that, the sort of the game plan, because it is a limited series on HBO, and it's from Craig Mazin, the guy who did Chernobyl, which I thought was unbelievably good. And that's kind of the same. I agree with you in that that's the perfect space where you can get almost an elongated movie where you get to, like, you know, flesh out with something comparable more to like the hours and hours of gameplay and story that like a player gets in a game versus like a movie where you're stuck to like.
It's a tough translation too, because that experience becomes so intimate and personal from the player's perspective. What you're doing is based on your own choice, and that's very hard to replicate on a grand scale. Like, it's tough enough to translate a book to something that all the people that read the book would say, yeah, that feels like the book. But a game, it's so much more deep and intimate. It's going to be a challenge. They almost have to set out to, tell the mythology without such a first person, without a character like Shepard, or, you know what I mean? At the lead of it.
And audience insertion where like your choices are so much more ingrained into like how everything plays out. You know what I mean? They kind of tried that with Bandersnatch. I think the Black Mirror thing where you pick it.
Yeah, but that's
it's hard.
That's a hyper specific application to storytelling that cannot be replicated with any kind of efficiency. It's so expensive and time intensive. Like it's not what's it called? Expandable? What are they? I don't know. That's the new media term for.
Yeah, that's not like adaptable. I think you can't have every studio doing those like with everything, especially not with a video game franchise. I don't
even think there's an audience for it exactly. It's not the same one-to-one. Everyone's trying to exploit the choose your own adventure. It's been the thing. I mean, 25 years. People, we even tried to take a stab at it, but it's like the technology. I don't know, the capability of the technology doesn't quite connect to the plus of the audience experience, right? Mm-hmm. When you gather around this kind of media, it's like going to a concert. It's the water cooler conversation. People love this stuff as much, almost less than they love being able to share it with people and share their passion for it. So when you make it the individual's choice and then try and relate it to a global entertainment thing, it doesn't function well. You wind up getting the aggregation of the majority, right? So I don't know. You either make that choose your own, like a one-to-one experience player and content. I don't know. Talking on my ass. How did we get on this conversation?
Yeah, I don't know. It's something with like video games and me liking Mass. I don't remember. But anyway.
Right. Again, we both like cats. That one's very cute.
Both like cats. Momo, you're going to have to say goodbye to Seth Green. Yep. Hey, you're not going to say goodbye? Okay, whatever.
That's cool.
This is a podcast, so this is bad radio. So again, Seth, thank you so much for joining. Remember, everyone, watch the Robot Chicken Halloween special coming out on Halloween. Hey, thank you so much for joining me, man.
My pleasure. Great to talk with you.
Of course. Come back anytime.
Right on.